Hello, and welcome to another edition of Off Grid with Horses. I'm Russell.
And I'm Alex. Russell and I are going to share true life adventures of our lives with horses on our Colorado mountain ranch.
We live way off grid at 9,300 feet above sea level, high in the Colorado Rockies.
Where the air is thin.
But the breathing is easy.
And life is hard.
But the living is good. Hello, we're back. We've had a very long introduction to 2026, but welcome to another episode of Off Grid with Horses. I'm Russell.
And I'm Alex.
And we're here to tell you about some of the adventures we've had on our ranch high in the Colorado Rockies. We're at 9,300 feet. While we're recording this, it is fairly late May, and it is snowing. But we're pressing forward. We've had a very eventful so far 2026. Alex has had some events and I've had some events. Alex, why don't you tell us what you've been doing?
Well, let's go ahead and start, I guess, by talking about all my incredible amount of care of Mr. Merlin. So Merlin is one of our horses out here. He was actually my very first rescue, a personal rescue, back in 2005. And he is now about 40 years old. He's a Navajo pony, and I've loved him for more than half his life now. He had, obviously, 40 is a pretty substantial age for a horse to get to, and he has had his share of little challenges, but this January, he had a big episode.
I was coming down the stairs from our house, and Alex had been working out there. She does the early morning shift. Now she's doing the late shift too, but she does the early morning shift, taking care of the animals and feeding them and so forth. And I was coming down the stairs and Alex said, Merlin's not doing good, that this may be his last day. He's just not doing well at all. So I got a coat on and I went out to take a look at him, and I started shoveling some manure and doing some things that I could do out there while still keeping an eye on him. And while I was doing that, he just laid down and wouldn't get back up. So I texted Alex and said, I think you better come out here. I think this is probably it. I think this is the end. And so Alex came out, and we had Lily with us as well. She's a friend of ours, a 19-year-old who gives us a lot of help. And she was here as well. And we just started comforting him and petting him. Alex put his head in her lap and started rubbing his cheeks and rubbing his neck. And I was rubbing his tummy. And he was lying there and breathing. His breathing was very labored. He was having a very difficult time. And there were several times, and I kid you not, that he stopped breathing and his eyes glazed over, and I thought, this is it. That's it. He's gone. And then he would take a deep breath again, and he would start breathing again. And this went on for quite a while. And he kept having a hard time breathing, and he would breathe and stop and breathe and stop. And then he did that same thing again, where he stopped breathing and he just kind of looked up and his eyes glazed over. And I thought again, this is it. This has got to be it. He's got to be gone now. And that second time lasted longer than the first time. And then lo and behold, he took another deep breath and his eyes looked better again. And so we decided that he's going to need some help, that this was his last stand, but he's fighting and he's not comfortable. He's in pain. He's suffering. And so we decided we should call the vet. So I got up and called our vet. It was a Sunday, so it was an emergency call. So I called the vet and I said, Merlin's not doing well. I explained to him what was happening. And I said, I think he just needs some help. I think we need to give him some meds and help him pass on. And so the vet got in his truck and started driving this way. The vet everything up here is a long ways away. Grocery stores are an hour away. Everything's a long ways away. And the vet's about an hour away. So he started driving out here.
And then, while Russell was there making that call, and the vet was on the way, Lily and I were left alone with Merlin, and we were crying and we were holding him, and suddenly something happened. He he got to his knees. He struggled up to his knees, and then I helped him to be able to stand, and Lily was just there with us helping and watching, and then he got up and he walked over and he went to the bathroom, and then he started eating again. And it was just, we were just amazed. And by that time Russell came back out, and we were all just, we call him Miracle Merlin now.
Yeah. So I called the vet and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but he's up. He's walking around." And the vet said, "Well, do you want me to come still or do you want me to turn around?" I said, "Well, go ahead and turn around." I said, he's up and he's around and he's doing stuff." And the vet said, "Well, just so you know, he probably won't make it through the night. But if he does, well, good for him. And then we'll see, and we'll send a vet by." And I think it was, I had to wait a day. I think Tuesday was the first day that we could get our regular vet here. And so he said, if he's still around Tuesday, we'll check him out and do what we can do. And lo and behold, he was still here Tuesday. And why don't you tell him what the vet did on Tuesday with the meds?
Oh, and so what we started, because we couldn't really figure out, that includes the vet, couldn't really figure out what was going on. It presented as a number of different things that it could have been. And so we were talking about relieving pressure, because there's a high likelihood that it could be a tumor that was pressing on something that had caused that. There was also a complication. He apparently had cracked a tooth, and so there was a horrible smell coming from his mouth at the same time. But we decided the best thing we could do to stabilize him was to start a regime of steroids. And so we started with, she gave him a 7 milligram steroid injection that day. And then we went to oral applications, and that lasted for about 2 weeks, a very slow taper off. And he got better after that. It was kind of remarkable. He still was not eating a whole lot, and I was thinking that that was because of his tooth. So then he was doing a little better, and about 3 weeks passed. He had another episode, but it wasn't nearly as extreme as that first one. And in that episode, it did appear that he fell again. I thought in the first episode he had fallen. And when he had fallen, it seemed as though he must have lost that tooth that had been cracked or whatever had happened before, because the smell had completely changed. It was gone. There was nothing there. And he only took about 2 days where he wouldn't eat. The first time he took 3 days where he wouldn't eat, and he lost a lot of weight. And so we did another steroid treatment. It was a little less this time. And we continued on, and he started eating again, and he started to gain a little bit of weight. That gaining of weight was brought about by 4 to 5 meals a day of tiny little meals and constant refiguring of the ingredients to get him what he would eat and what would be the best for him, both at the same time, which can a lot of times not work.
Those tiny little meals, Alecz says, makes it sound like it's not a big deal, but it actually is a big deal for her, because she gives those 5 meals and she makes them all, each one, and then she takes him out to him, and he has to go into his own little room. He's got his own little area that he goes to where we can shut him in so the other horses don't steal his grain. And then if Alecz doesn't stay there, he won't eat. And so Alecz not only prepares the meal for him, and then she puts it in his tray and closes him in, then she stays there and just stays with him. And she does this 5 times a day. And that takes about a total 45 minutes to an hour each time. So Alecz has been just such a trooper. She's been making the meals and then we'll go into it. I'll ask her in a moment of how she decides what goes into the grain. It's not just, this is more than just, hay grain or something. This is a particular concoction that she's invented and she makes, and she goes out and stays with him and does it 5 times a day. So what is in his grain?
Well, it's really not all that complicated. It was certainly complicated getting to this point, but it's very exact right now. Right now, he gets 1 cup of pelleted Timothy pellets. So that's Timothy hay. That's a grass hay that is fairly innocuous, low in proteins and sugars. It's a simple hay that's common for many people to use. And it's pelleted, so that means I'll need to add water to it in order for it to be digested properly so it doesn't suck all the moisture out of his insides. And so it's the Timothy pellets. Nutrina makes a couple of different grains. One is called Molasses Free Senior, and he gets 1 cup of that. Another one is called Special Care, and he gets another cup of that. He also gets a cup of rice bran, and that helps him to gain weight. And then he gets 1 scoop per meal of Cool Calories 100 by ManaPro. I feel like I'm advertising for all these different places. But that is a dry fat supplement that helps horses to be able to gain weight without going crazy, getting too much sugar or too much protein. Then he also gets a little bit of Farrier's Formula. That's a supplement blend that helps horses' feet to stay in good condition. And does he get anything else?
Yes, you forgot something else.
The 500 pounds of grated carrots every single time?
Yeah. Alecz will grate carrots, and she'll usually grate 3 to 4 large carrots and mix that in. And not only grated carrots, but what is the absolute incredible ingredient?
Carrot juice.
He gets carrot juice, and not just carrot juice. Carrot juice has to be refrigerated, and we can't give Merlin cold carrot juice. So Alecz heats up the carrot juice in the microwave so that it's warm carrot juice, mixes it with a little bit of water so it's not straight carrot juice, and then mixes all of that together. And she does this 5 times every day, starting at about 5 a.m., and the last feeding gets usually done at about 9 o'clock at night.
This is all true, but it also, what you're saying doesn't also include the fact that in addition to that, I feed all the other 10 horses twice a day and bring them water and give them hay as well as their grains.
And I clean the manure. I do something around here, but without Alecz, the place certainly would not function. But I'm very impressed with Alecz that she's been able to mix this grain concoction specifically for Merlin. She knows, she makes it sound like, well, it's no big deal. You put this in, you put this in, you put this in. But she had to know all the different products so that she could say, well, I want this one and this one and this one and this one and not that one and so forth. And our vet was just here a few minutes ago and saying, he looks great. He looks like, he doesn't look like he's a baby anymore, but he looks great. He's running around and kicking, and every once in a while he thinks he's the alpha again and will try and maneuver around the 5-year-old giant Mustang. He's doing really, really well.
He is. He's Miracle Merlin.
So our 2026 so far has been quite eventful. And that's the story of Merlin. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to mention that we'd really like to hear from you. If you'd like to hear more about care of a senior horse or a baby horse, let us know. If you want to hear other things about the ranch and what we do up here, let us know. Contact us at info@offgridwithhorses.com. That's info@offgridwithhorses.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you next time.